I'm going to continue on with another little story here that happens before Christmas time. Back in the fall, when it started getting cold, usually in September, because a lot of times it would be a big frost on in September. I know my birthday was on the 4th day of September, and my dad said the morning that I was born, there was one of the biggest frosts he had ever seen for that time of year. And we would start hunting. We had an old hunting dog, and we would go out at night and catch possums and trap things. But we'd take them home and we skinned them, and we would make boards, and the boards were peaked to where we could hook the lip of this animal over and stretch it down over that board. And the way we skinned them now wasn't that we cut them in two or anything. It came out whole. The skin came out whole. It wasn't just spread out. We'd stretch it over that board, and we'd hang them up all around the edge of the eave of this one building that we had, and we would let those hides dry. But before they dried, we would scrape them down, just like I guess some of you have heard about me drying the hides to make banjo heads out of, and it's the same way with that. Well, we'd catch hides. We would hunt just about every night, and especially on the weekends, get all the hides we could. And my dad, he would help me and a couple of my cousins, and that was a lot of fun to us to be out at night with no carbide light and hunting possums and whatever we could catch like that, small animals. We'd trap, maybe get a mink or a muskrat or an old coon or something like that occasionally. But when it would get about a week to 2 weeks before Christmas, these hides would be dry, and so we would not fold them. We'd try to get us a box long enough to where they would just lay flat in that box, and we'd just pack that box full of all the hides that were dry. And we would ship them to a place called Morris Fur Company in Greensboro, North Carolina. And well, in about 6 to 10 days, they'd send us a check. Sometimes they would grade those hides, and those hides would be 5 cents for one, 2 cents for one, 3 cents for one, whatever the condition was, and however good the fur was on it is the way they graded them, and they paid us accordingly. But at least we'd have enough money that we could go to the community of the little town called Haysi, 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 Virginia, and we'd go out there and buy some fireworks. But if they didn't have any fireworks, we would use carbide. I know some people know what carbide is, and of course we kept it at home all the time, and my dad had to use it, him being a coal miner. That was how the lights were lit. And go back in the coal mines, you had a light that hung on your cap, and we'd use the carbide light, and then those tin cans that the carbide came in, we saved those. And at Christmas time, we'd take a nail and make a small hole in the bottom edge of that can, and we'd put a couple grains of carbide in it, and of course we didn't have water available, so we spit in it. And spit in that carbide and kept that lid down on it, and it was compressed, the lid would, and we'd compress it down in there and put it down and put our foot on top of it. Of course we had shoes on, and take that carbide light and pop it down to that hole, and it sounded like a stick of dynamite going off. And a lot of times that was better than firecrackers anyway, because we were more safer with the carbide than we were the firecrackers. And so the hunting and for the hides and the drying of the hides and mailing them off, and all came to an understanding when I moved to the state of North Carolina. And that would have been in 1959, March the 3rd. I moved to North Carolina, and I got a job in a weave room where they were making cloth. And I hauled filling and all for that. I know I'm getting ahead of myself, but I want to finish this story for you. I learned why glued to the inside of that shuttle, and when the thread, the bobbin, when the thread would come off, because it was zooming back and forth through that loom, and that fur kept the thread from coming off in a wad. It would just hold it, and that's how I learned why. And that would have been 40 years from the time that I was mailing those hides in until I learned what they were used for. And that was a good thing to learn, knowing then what my hunting and all back when I was 8, 9 years old, 10. So that's a little story there.